we saw the signs. And they opened up our eyes. We saw the signs.
We saw the signs.
You're listening to America's most faithless podcast, The Pod People. I'm Matisse Van Rossman. I'm a miracle man.
I'm Ben Sheets, and I would strike Joaquin Phoenix out in 3 pitches. Slider outside. He feels like he's drowning. Curveball in the dirt. Of course he's chasing it. He bailed on Todd Haynes' rim job movie, fucking coward, kill yourself. And bang, 97 inside corner, you're out. You were always out. You've been out since the day you were born.
I like it better when it's Timothée Chalamet.
Hi, I'm Cleveland Mosier, and I am a child of the corn.
Today, we are all children of the corn because we watched Signs.
Yes.
This is a Patreon pick episode. This pick comes courtesy of our honorary pod boy, Sam. And oh my god, I can't believe it. We're back with M. Night again so soon. We just saw Trap a few weeks ago.
Keep the M. Night train going.
We're all surprised how much we liked Trap. And so now we're going back to earlier in his career, Signs from 2002. This was his follow-up to Unbreakable.
I mean, I think this is a really interesting point in M. Night's career.
Yeah.
Because, post Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, he was, on the top of the world. He basically had a blank check to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah, I was actually looking up some of the numbers for this movie out of curiosity. The budget was $72 million in 2001.
Dog, good lord.
Expensive film.
Jesus.
And opening weekend alone, domestic, it made $68 million of that back. Just opening weekend.
Do y'all remember the release of this movie?
Yes.
Yes, I didn't see it until years later. And honestly, this is my first time seeing it probably since I was about 15 years old, I think. But I do remember a lot of the hype around this movie because I remember seeing the trailer in theaters as a kid and being very scared by it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember back in elementary school, I think, there was a World Series going on, and my church had a get together where everyone watched it in the gymnasium. And one of the commercials, they had an extended first look at Signs, where they showed the first sequence where Mel Gibson is going through the cornfields and the alien creeps away out of the corner of the eye.
Mm-hmm.
And I was freaked out by it, but I thought it was awesome at the same time. I remember that very vividly.
Yeah.
I'd never seen it before. This was my first time.
Wow.
I had seen the clip of the TV jump scare before. And I thought I'd seen more.
Yeah, the famous
that.
birthday
the famous
party
scene. I'd seen
jump
that before because, when you're that age, you watch clips of movies and stuff on YouTube. So I did see that clip. I thought I'd seen more clips, but no, none of this movie rung any bells beyond that. So it was essentially fresh, apart from that one sequence. So yeah, I was able to come into this pretty new.
And
obviously, the end,
the twist,
yeah. I guess. If you can really even call it that, it's weird. We'll talk about that more, but I was aware of that. And that's about it.
Yeah, it's funny this kind of added to the reputation of M. Night twist, because it is not a twist in this movie.
They just straight up say it. It's so weird. But then the protagonists I
think it's too early to be talking about the twist.
I
do think that by conventional M. Night standards, there is a quote-unquote twist to this movie.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's what a lot of people would maybe consider the twist. Again, it's too early. But, Cleveland, I am curious. This was your first time seeing it, knowing a little bit about it. Mr. M. Night hater, how did you like it?
I liked it more than I was expecting. I'll be honest. We've got a group chat, and when I was back at home, I was finishing up work, I hit up the group chat, and I said, hey guys, when are we going to hell? Because I was really not looking forward to this. I just assumed I wouldn't like it. And I didn't, but like I didn't like it a lot less than I thought I would. There was actually I would say the first 3/4 of the film I was having a pretty great time. I think it's a pretty well made film, and while it does have what I would consider to be script problems, there aren't as many as I would normally say. There are some legitimate strengths in this film. I would say normally I don't like the stupid laziness of his movies. Here I would say, apart from the last 3/4 of the film, that it's not so much stupid as just simple and clean. It's great to look at. I really like the cinematography of this film. I like the color grading, and I love the actors involved. And frankly, too, for the most part, I liked the dialogue, which is rare for me.
I think it works similar to Trapped. I think it works better in this movie than it does in some of his others. Like it's got M. Night's same kind of, we've always talked about his we'll call it politely stylized sense of stilted kind of dialogue. But similarly to Trapped, I think that Trap. Similar to
Headstrong, I take you on.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Similar to Trap, I think that some of the kind of stilted dialogue on this sort of enhances the feelings of wrongness and like some of the atmosphere, which I think is one of this movie's strong suits. It does get like a lot of M. Night movies, it gets very goofy in the third act. But I was kind of surprised. Like, again, I haven't seen this movie since I was like a teenager, and it's aged very well with me. Like, I think there's some nostalgia tied up in that. I do remember it hit me very hard watching it this time, the scene where like little Abigail Breslin like wakes Mel Gibson up in the night, and it's just like the close-up of her face being like, there's a monster outside my door, can I have a glass of water? And like I remember that very clearly from like the trailer, and like as a little kid like being scared of the monster outside my door. But yeah, I think this movie's fun.
Yeah, I mean, like you, I don't think I've seen this movie since, originally I thought high school, but I think maybe middle school even. I think it's been that long, probably, 15 years plus.
Yeah, I feel like my only like clear memory of watching this movie was in like my friend's basement in like 7th grade.
And I will say, like, the pacing is a little different than I remembered. Like, I think being so young, the scares of this movie, the set pieces of this movie kind of brought themselves out to a point where I didn't notice kind of what I think feels a little slow burn almost at times.
Yeah, it's slower than I remembered, but I kind of don't mind that. I kind of like I was saying, like I think this movie sort of like thrives in its like sense of atmosphere and tone, and I think you lose a lot of that tone when it gets more action heavy, I guess, at the end.
Yeah, well, it's classic horror film. It's a classic trope. Like, you don't show the whole elephant, Like, it's 3 blind men in a room, and they really take their time with that for all of its effect. Like, we don't really know what they look like.
I'm kind of torn on it, to be honest, because, like, when it goes, right? Like, when it has set pieces, it feels like the pacing is nearly frenetic. And then it'll stop, and it only makes, for me, the stilted dialogue more apparent. Where, like, I feel like I give it more of a pass when it's in a very, kind of frenetic, tense scene.
Yeah. I don't really agree with that, but I can see where you're coming from.
I like the characters enough to just enjoy being in their presence. And,
let's talk about the characters, right? Like, we have Mel Gibson,
yes,
in the lead role here, pre-slurs, when he was still arguably A-list star.
Oh, arguably.
You know, and we have Joaquin Phoenix as well.
Young Joaquin, yeah.
In one of his early kind of primary roles.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't feel like he had really been much of a leading man before this, and he isn't really in this. You know, Mel Gibson is more of our protagonist. But yeah, this is a good early Joaquin role. And the kids, Mel Gibson's kids, Rory Culkin is the little boy, and then this was Abigail Breslin's very first role. I looked that up. She was about 5 when they were filming this.
That's kind of surprising, actually, because Abigail Breslin did have a bit of a storied child star career. I feel like she's dropped off the face of the earth at this point.
Yeah, I feel like I looked her up not that long ago, and she's doing mostly like TV stuff now. Like she's working, like she's continuously working, I mean, but like yeah, I haven't seen her.
It's a hard life being a child star.
Yeah, and you know she's like another sort of Shyamalan connection. She's one of those same actors like Dakota Fanning, who like I remember in a ton of stuff like as a child actor, and then like haven't really seen in forever until we saw her in The Watchers early this year, but has been continuously working in others. Like,
honestly, like M. Night's bread and butter is working with child stars, right?
Yeah.
Like Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah, especially coming after The Sixth Sense, and I think he does have a good way with directing kids, because I think that both Rory Culkin and Abigail Breslin are pretty good in this movie. I really like both of their performances. Rory Culkin is doing this thing that I love, a kind of character that I love, is like a little boy who talks and behaves like a man. Like,
because kids are just tiny adults.
Very kind of like serious and intellectual and like responsible and like seemingly more mature than his years would suggest, but also still very much like a child who needs to be protected and looked after.
It's a very nuanced, understated performance, especially compared to like what Macaulay Culkin was doing in like the late 80s, early 90s with like Home Alone and the one where he's a serial killer.
Oh, like,
they're very camp performances. Yeah. Where this doesn't feel camp. It feels very, understated again.
I'll tell you, it's like Trap. Like, it felt like he was writing his experience as a parent into this film, being Shyamalan.
Yeah.
I did want to note that Joaquin Phoenix was Commodus in Gladiator 2 years before. Gladiator's 2000.
Oh, shit, yes. No, you're totally right. I always think of this as coming before Gladiator.
Frankly, because I think Gladiator has aged like the finest of wines. Like, that movie still looks incredible.
And Joaquin is so good in Gladiator.
So good.
He's so good at that movie.
It's a generational performance.
Yeah.
And
no, you're totally right.
Yeah, it's like I would also like, if I hadn't just looked it up, I would have thought the same. That's why I had to. I was kind of like, well, what? Surprisingly, actually, Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah, he was a child actor as well as Leaf Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
River Phoenix as well.
Yes.
Yeah, his brother. Yeah.
But yeah, like Joaquin was in a number of series and shows. Murder, She Wrote. He was a kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and sort of stuff.
That's funny.
Acting family, much like the Culkins. Sort of fun. Which meant that probably, like, honestly, Joaquin being on set with young Rory was probably like pretty beneficial, because like he was also a child actor, so he kind of knew how to,
I wouldn't be surprised about that.
But yeah, no, so I think that there is a lot of I have a lot of flowers to give in respect to like how the child actors are used, not just like in the script, but also just in execution. Like their delivery is very genuine. Like, yes, it's stilted, but in the way that kids are, I buy it. The bit of dialogue where, she's like, oh, there's a monster outside. Also, I need a glass of water. I 100% buy. Kids are weird like that. Mm-hmm. And again, it comes from, I think my expectation is that a lot of that comes from experience. And yeah, I guess like, I don't know. Maybe M. Night is just at his best when he's just writing to parenthood.
I think so. I did see that later in the movie when they're boarding up the house and stuff ahead of the alien invasion or whatever, when Mel Gibson is trying to sort of like keep his kids distracted and he's telling each of them like the stories of their birth or whatever. Apparently that was just M. Night like literally writing about his daughters. Like that is just was just like the story of their births. And something else I saw a fun bit of trivia too is the Rory Culkin gets this book on extraterrestrials or whatever at this local bookstore. Is written by like Dr. Bimby or Bimbu or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's sort of using it as like, I don't know, exposition throughout the movie or whatever. But at one point, Mel Gibson sits down and he's like looking, and there's all of these like very kind of childish drawings in the book. All of those drawings were done by M. Night's daughter, who played Lady Raven in Trap.
No shit.
So all of those little crayon drawings
in
the Dr. Bimbu alien book or whatever.
Wait.
That was Lady Raven.
When she was like 7, she did that illustration of the house being on fire. I don't know. Like the other
maybe not that
yeah,
one.
I don't know about that one. But the rest I know that makes sense. That's really sweet.
Yeah.
I really liked that book. I like how it's used as it's sort of the trope in a fantasy story or like your standard horror film where they come across the ancient book that has all the writings on the creature or the monster in it. But in this case, like, it's just a book he buys from the bookstore. We see him get it and everything else. And, like, there's never any certainty that it's... Like, if anything, it's just we're made to think that it's just a crack alien book. And
but it pretty continually like gives them like the correct information,
but not always, right? And I like that. Like, there's something to that where like they're just having to rely on this crank book
not so explicitly that there isn't room for plausible deniability.
Well, like for instance, he says that the alien, like Rory says, like the aliens are probably about as big as I am. Not true. Like there's a number of like facts that like aren't accurate to the aliens.
But at the same time, it's like the aliens do still look kind of like your
grays,
traditional gray aliens with like, a little differences and stuff. They're bigger and so on and so forth. But the sort of like the thesis of the whole film or whatever, or rather the constant push and pull of the film is whether things are signs or coincidences.
I mean, it's faith and skepticism.
Skepticism,
yes.
right?
Like, I think that's the core of the movie, and like that's the core of Mel Gibson's character. Right?
Yes.
Like, I think blanket spoilers for the rest of this, but people rag on like the quote unquote twist of water, being the weakness of the aliens in this movie, and to me.
That's not
that
the
reads
twist.
as kind of playing into the theme of faith and skepticism, right? Like,
well, yeah.
To me, Mel Gibson, his character arc plays into that plot point super elegantly, in my opinion.
The whole thing with his character is that he is a former reverend who has lost his faith and left the church after the death of his wife 6 months prior to the start of the film. He is very much struggling with that for the entire film, but sort of like actively fighting against the idea of there being some kind of higher power. Because to him, the idea that there is a God and that God took his wife away so cruelly is more horrifying than the idea of there not being a god and it just being bad luck or coincidence, you know. And that's why he has that scene on the couch with him and Joaquin Phoenix where he's talking about, you know, there's everybody fits into two groups in the world, like people who believe in luck and coincidence or people who believe in signs and miracles, you know. It's a whole little monologue that he gives, but that's the essence of it, you know, because Joaquin is asking him to comfort him, basically, like, be like you used to be and comfort me. And he's like, well, what kind of man are you? And Joaquin's like, oh yeah, well, I'm a miracle man, because I was at a party one time and I was about to kiss this girl and I realized I had gum in my mouth and I turned to spit it out. When I turned back, she threw up all over herself, and I could have been kissing her when she threw up, and it would have been all in my mouth, and I never would have recovered. I never would have recovered from that. So that's a miracle. I believe in miracles.
I think we've all heard someone tell a story like that too. It's very,
and it's great because it's like that. It's for him to use like that as an example of like that proves the existence of God, when like most people just be like, man, that is good fucking luck that I had to spit my gum out at that moment. But he takes that so clearly as like, yeah, that's something worth believing in. And then Mel Gibson is basically like, no, there's no higher power. There's no one looking out for us. We're alone in this world, and you know, all we have is the people around us.
Yeah, and I think that kind of arc for Mel Gibson's character is surprisingly fleshed out for an M. Night movie.
Extremely well fleshed out.
I love the scene where it turns out that M. Night, as an self-insert, you know, as he likes to do, Hitchcock style, is the person who ran into his wife.
Yeah.
And, you know, in a drunk driving accident.
The director, once again, inserting himself as the hand of God, similar to Trap.
Yeah.
Once again, as a plot device.
Yeah.
in a good way too. I like it. I like his involvement. Though his delivery in the car later on is a little stilted, I think. Like, it's not...
Yeah, but
I liked it.
But it's believable because...
The guy's sort of dissociating.
Well, I mean, he's in shock because he's just locked an alien in his pantry.
Yeah.
So he's in shock, but also it's the first time that he is confronting or speaking with Mel Gibson since he was responsible for the death of his wife. You know, that whole scene starts with him being like, you know, I wrote your number down so I could call you, and it never felt like the right time, so it's just been sitting there next to my phone for 6 months. And he called it because when the alien got in, it was your number was there, so it was the only thing I thought to call. So now he's being confronted with like the existence of aliens, he's just locked in his pantry, and also being forced to now speak with the man whose wife he killed in an accident, you know, falling asleep at the wheel or whatever.
It's interesting to me that he managed to make an alien movie that plays to faith. Like, so often, I think the conceit
That's what I think is so interesting about this
right,
movie.
like, the conceit of an alien series is that God isn't real, right? Like, if there is life out there, then why isn't that included in Genesis?
Right. Yeah.
Like, why, like on a biblical science level, like, it doesn't mesh. And I think that's pretty neat. Like, and I think it's interesting that Mel Gibson is in this film, too. Because Mel, like, just by casting Mel Gibson, you're sort of, like, I'm doing a papal cross with my fingers right now, but you're sort of giving this film this sort of, like, a Christian seal of approval. Like, Mel Gibson is frankly, like, the Christian actor.
I think this is pre-Passion.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I think Passion of the Christ was a year or two later, after this.
Yeah.
I want, like, 2003, 2004.
I guess so, yeah, the ultimate Christian film. But, like, no... okay, well, I rescind that, but, yeah, we can...
I mean, but there's like, something to that.
It is, yeah, regardless, like, the point being that, like, this is an alien invasion movie for Christians. Like, at the end of the movie, like, faith wins. Like, his faith is regained, and...
Well, that's... I mean, if we're going ahead and saying that outright, that is the real quote unquote twist of the film.
Absolutely,
is that God is real.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like quite that heavy handed, but like ultimately what it comes down to is that all of these events, these things that are happening throughout the movie did happen for a reason, setting them up.
And I think that at its core is why it works, with kind of the faith film messaging, is like the aliens are a metaphor, right? For like inexplicable tragedy and bad things happening. And like ultimately what do you have to
fear of the unknown
lean on is what's all around you, water, or the metaphor faith. Yeah. Right? Like water is all around us, faith is all around us.
Sure. And I think that's pretty well too. I think that's something that I didn't really appreciate or pick up on like as a teenager watching this movie. That's why I've always kind of like been in the camp of the twist is that the aliens are weak to water, and it's like, no, it's not really though. It's like,
well, it's kind of both.
I mean, sure, it is.
But it's signposted.
They sign
not a twist.
They signpost it throughout the film, but the whole point is that like because Mel Gibson's character is so skeptical of everything, he hears people being like, well, none of this shit is ever is happening near water. Like, I don't think they like water, like all that stuff. And he's just like, I think he even says like when Rory Culkin says something like that at one point in the movie, Mel Gibson is like, that sounds made up. It's just like he's so immediately willing to write it off that even though it is being pretty obviously signposted at the end when Joaquin Phoenix is beating the alien with the baseball bat and knocking all of the glasses of water over, when like the water does burn the alien like acid, it's like
in slow-mo as the music swells to cue the audience in to that this is a big deal.
And that it's not that like skepticism is not being rewarded here, that like that there is some kind of higher power at play. Like there is something that is telling his daughter to leave the glasses of water all over the house. There's something that they think is just this weird little quirk. She keeps tasting the water and it's old or it's dusty or it's contaminated. It doesn't taste right or whatever. So she's leaving these glasses of water all over the house. Like that is quirky or coincidence or whatever, but no, it has a higher meaning. It has a higher purpose. So I think that's why that it treats it as kind of like a revelatory moment, that it's like it is like faith being rewarded to save the characters in this their darkest hour. Mm-hmm. Right. Same thing with like the asthma. Like the alien tries to spray its poison into Rory Culkin's face, but because he's had an asthma attack, his lungs are all closed up, so he's not able to inhale any of it. So he survives after they give him the epinephrine shot.
Which isn't how any of that works, but that's fine.
Yeah, sure. But like it's I mean, when you're having an allergic reaction, you're going into anaphylaxis and your throat's closing up. Like an epinephrine shot will.
Did any of y'all know anyone with asthma growing up?
I had it.
You had asthma?
Yeah, I had asthma.
Oh. I did too.
Really?
Briefly. Like
it wasn't brief for me. Yeah,
there
I had
was
asthma attacks and everything.
There were like a couple of years in my life, like 3rd and 4th grade, where like I had mild asthma and like I had an inhaler, but like it went away.
Yeah, no, it didn't for me. I had asthma attacks in the middle of the night. I'd have to like sit in front of the freezer.
It's gone away for you now, though.
It did. As I got older and strong, and powerful, and I stopped being a nerd, the asthma went away.
Yeah, that's right. Only nerds have asthma. That's why Rory Culkin has asthma in this, because he's a little nerd. Fucking nerd reading Dr. Bimbu alien books.
Yeah, idiot.
Fucking little twerp, dipshit.
I was going to share my experience with people who have asthma, but it feels inappropriate now because they died from an asthma attack.
It do be like that sometimes.
I'm sorry, your experience that is good.
Yeah.
Did you watch your friends die of asthma?
Absolutely not.
It was secondhand. PTSD backstory here.
It was secondhand, but it was a person in my youth group who had died from untreated asthma attack.
Well, they should have had faith.
I was gonna say, I guess God isn't real. Then.
Yeah, damn crazy, right?
Jesus.
And that is why I think my thesis for this film is it is, and I think by design, dumb War of the Worlds. I think this movie hits a lot of the points of War of the Worlds. It hits a lot of the beats for stupid people. And I think that's fine.
No, I think I think it's pretty different from War of the Worlds.
I think Dumb World of the Worlds is the Spielberg version, personally.
That movie is great, actually.
That movie's a
I just
banger,
rewatched it not that long ago.
easy there.
That movie is good.
You hold your horses there, bud.
The Tom Cruise one with Steven Spielberg.
Yeah,
when's
why
the
are you making that face right now,
When's the last
Ben?
time you saw it?
Yeah, what do you... Okay.
I haven't seen it since middle school, but I remember not it.
It's a rewatch it.
Give it another go.
It's a pretty faithful modernization of it too.
And Spielberg is a good director, and Tom Cruise is a good actor.
Yeah, and young Dakota Fanning is very good in it too.
Oh, she's annoying though, by design.
Yeah, like
By
she's
design.
used really well for that, like in the film. Like it makes it like you really feel for Tom Cruise as a
Fucking
dad.
Tim Robbins shows up as like the crazy guy in the basement later.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
Yeah, and the
Spielberg War of the Worlds movie is good.
base-
I'll stand by that.
Yeah, and the basement sequence, which is also in the original novel War of the Worlds, it also takes place in this film.
I mean, there is a scene in a basement. It's pretty different.
It hits at around the same period in time. It's their Dark Night of the Soul, and it's used to the same effect. Like I don't know. But,
That's
it's
a weird
an alien
extrapolation,
invasion.
though, because, like, Quiet Place has a basement scene where it's the Dark Night of the Soul. Mm-hmm. Is that the same?
No. Okay, so is Quiet Place dumb War of the Worlds? Also, to some capacity, but much less so. But in this circumstance, I think.
I mean, I think it's hard to say that any modern alien invasion story is not somehow inspired by War. I mean,
Right.
War of the Worlds
But
is like,
I think
also, like, War of the Worlds
is like the
I take
blueprint.
pause to the dumb part of it.
yeah, I don't think that's
Because
fair.
I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if you could really argue that War of the Worlds is that brilliant, comparatively.
I think for when it was written, yeah. I mean, it has 100 years on this movie.
I mean, I think it's H.G. Wells is a good sci-fi writer. Like, there's no doubt about
Yeah,
that.
like,
but I mean, I also think it's
Terrifying
trying.
and chilling.
I think it's also trying to tell a different type of story, and I don't think Signs is dumb.
Well, here's my point, though. If I may, like War of the Worlds is also like a thesis of survival. Like the protagonist is rewarded just for like carrying on living and not giving up, right? Like
Sure.
And through what is frankly a like near divine intervention. It's disease that kills the aliens, right? And here, like again, it's very similar. Like them holding out, having faith is rewarded. Like they're like, like the necessity of survival is rewarded, and also through kind of silly means. Like with
yeah, I mean, I think this movie is way more explicit about there being like pretty literal divine intervention, or like more of like a hand of God, where I don't think War of the Worlds is really about that. Like,
I agree. It is a more literal, like it is much more literal than War of the Worlds, which is what I mean by its stupid War of the Worlds. Like that's my point.
I don't agree that it's stupid, though. I think, War of the Worlds is pulp for the time, just as much as science is pulp for 2000.
Sure. Okay. Well, here I'll if
I
it makes
think
you
that's very
if it makes-
dismissive.
Okay, fine. I'll retract. If it makes us feel better, I will retract that it's stupid. But I do think that War of the Worlds plays a pretty strong influence on it.
Sure.
Especially one because the movie like outright references it, and two because there's also the influence of of Orson Welles' broadcast. Like these characters are constantly like referring back to the TV as a source of knowledge on the invasion, much like how Wells utilized War of the Worlds. Like, in his
I think
broadcasts.
that's a really interesting point. I feel like, in this movie, the TV is really a chorus, kind of, for...
It's a member of the family.
The narrative of the film.
yeah, it's so interesting because it almost feels Alien to today, I feel like is sort of like the relationship with the news is just like something that is
It's a monoculture that we don't have anymore.
yeah, like the idea that like when Mel Gibson's like talking to the sheriff early on or whatever, and Abigail Breslin comes in and is like, I can't find the remote, and he's like, just change the channel on the TV. She's like, I did. It's the same show as on every channel, and that like the idea that these crop circles popping up in places around the world would be like such a singular monocultural event that all TV stations and radio stations in the world would be devoting like 24-hour coverage to this, when it's like, shit, man, was that last year when they were doing like the fucking UFO hearings in the Senate or whatever? And it's like, who gives a shit,
No one
right? It's like
cares,
nobody
yeah.
fucking cares.
Largely because those are all bupkis, but yeah.
I mean, sure, that too,
like
but
pretty easily broken down to be, but yeah.
yeah, but I mean, Jesus Christ, like all of the
crop
channels.
signs like appearing literally
See,
all over the world at once. I think that would be.
I think Tisa's point is interesting though, because like I think the cultural relevance of like ET phenomenons and like ET in the national zeitgeist is nowhere where it used to be. And
I don't think anybody cares anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's something to be said for like things have gotten so bad for everybody that like the idea of an alien invasion like doesn't scare people. Like, it doesn't hold any
it's,
fear.
It's the
Well,
same
like,
as ghosts because neither is necessarily real.
Okay,
So,
I think,
like, we have, like, way more cameras now to catch these things, and, suddenly there aren't any. Oh, weird.
but
Crazy.
there were so many cameras in the 80s and 90s when aliens were popular. I think what's interesting is I think it was Adam Curtis in one of his documentaries talks about like how like the popularity of alien phenomena surged in the 90s when people were looking for like external answers to the bleakness of neoliberalism. And I think that's interesting. And I think because like ultimately like we've realized like the end consequences of neoliberalism in a lot of ways, like
boy, have we ever.
are not as popular.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting as a trend. And I think like this plays into some of that. Again, I think the narrative device of using TV to kind of propel the spread of aliens beyond the frame is interesting, because we have a very contained story on this farm where it's very limited in scope. You know, we have like one scene where they go out to town, but pretty much everything else is on this farm.
Yeah.
In this house.
And we're seeing outside of that, we're only seeing what they're also seeing on the television. Mm-hmm. I was reading that was one of M. Night's like primary goals in this, is to tell an alien invasion story from like a very limited perspective and like not show any more of the macro than what these characters had access to as well.
It's great.
Which
great
is
for it, too.
Again, and I know I keep making comparisons to Trap literally because we just saw it a few weeks ago and it's close to my mind. But it reminds me of the kind of same thing that he does in Trap, where we never see any closer to the stage than our characters are, and we're only getting closer to the stage as they're getting closer to it, that it's keeping us locked into like a very specific kind of perspective.
Well, what I find interesting about it is, like, at its core, it's still a very small story.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it's very much these characters with their singular experiences kind of overcoming the odds with this alien.
Yeah.
Where, like, it's the outer periphery of, like, this larger alien invasion internationally that's going on. And I feel like it adds to the feeling of it being a blockbuster film, but at the same time, it's kind of unnecessary.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree for one very specific reason. It has to be a global phenomenon. It has to be a global invasion, because part of the whole faith thing and rediscovering faith is it has to feel like it's the end of the world.
Yes.
It's not it's more than it's just the end of this family's world. It's that this is happening everywhere. And how can we possibly stand up to something this organized by these beings that we just do not understand at all? That's something that is so other and so threatening, and it's everywhere. This is the apocalypse. And so the sort of, again, like, divine intervention is that, like, there's basically the aliens invade for this one night. They kill a bunch of people, grab them, and then they leave. Why? We don't really know, right?
We
like
get
that's
that bit of dialogue on the TV about like people in the Middle East finding.
Yeah, they found a primitive way to drive back the aliens, but it's like there's just like something has happened, and it's been enough for the aliens to decide we don't want whatever this is. Like, one night of this is enough. We don't want the smoke or whatever.
Yeah.
And we never really get a good reason for that, right? So I think that helps make it feel more like divine intervention, that like something miraculous happened, something that is just as outside of the character's understanding as the existence of these aliens themselves, that has saved them.
Right.
You know?
Sure,
Yeah.
and I think, again,
Rain.
it
rained.
makes the film feel bigger, right? Because
Mhm.
we're so limited
Right.
in perspective, it makes it feel more like a blockbuster event film
Sure.
than it actually is. Because, like, I think at its core, like, if the characters did not have that information, it would still feel like the end of the world for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would.
And like, I think at its core, like, yeah, that's what's important. But at the same time, ultimately, blank check movie, big budget movie.
Yeah.
You want it to feel as big as possible.
Well, and also it has, you want it to feel like they have nowhere that they can go. They do have the whole vote and everything too, where Mel Gibson's like, I think we should go to the lake. We should go be near water because M. Night Shyamalan said that God said that they. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like
Carry on. Yeah.
the director, the hand of God, inserted himself as literally being like, they don't like water, so I'm going to the lake. And like he wants to do that too, but everyone in the family is like, no, like this is happening everywhere. Where can we go? So let's board up the house.
And I think you and I, in particular, can speak to that. You two probably with tornadoes as well. But like growing up with hurricanes, this is all very similar to me.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Like,
do you evacuate or do you ride it out?
Do you evacuate? Do you ride it out? And guess what? The whole time, the whole family is huddled around the TV trying to figure it out.
Yep.
Right? Like all those elements are there. And in addition to what,
like my mom literally built hurricane shutters for her house. Like after getting sick of having to board up the windows every hurricane season, like she just built shutters that still has. She built them well.
Absolutely. And it's not uncommon in the South. Like,
No.
And very often the whole family, you want to stay at your home. You want to stay where you feel safe. Because often people make these decisions based on feeling, not on the science. And guess what? Faith rewards that, especially in fiction. Then, in addition, my other point to that initial point about like the TV and I think why it's really effective, personally, like why I agree with that is to harken back again to War of the Worlds. Like that War of the Worlds broadcast was seminal. It's still talked about today. Like it's very known that this guy did a broadcast and a lot of people thought it was real. that at one point there was a big alien broadcast and the whole public was duped. Now, what does that knowledge do? It allows us to watch the broadcast within the movie and still allow for doubt while revealing more of the alien. And I think that's cool. Like, I think that's really neat that, like, because these characters are receiving this knowledge secondhand, like it's all through the TV, it's all through media, like, we still don't fully know. And that's played out through the book, like, reinforces that. And the dialogue around the book reinforces that too. Like, oh, that's a bunch of hooey. We don't know if this is true or not. And so, and also, like, their relationship with the TV and how, like, it is sort of another character in the film is very similar. For a little while, like, they don't watch anything on the TV, and then finally things come back around, and it's a comedic beat where he says, oh, you know what? No, we're going to start watching the TV again. And also, Joaquin moves it into the closet because it's the information is too scary for the kids.
Yeah, to hide it from the kids. Yeah. But then by the end of the movie, they're all four just crowded around the TV in the closet.
And you know that, like,
it's great.
That comes out of, like, Shyamalan's relationship with horror and his kids, right? Like, at first, like, oh, they're going to be scared of this thing, you don't include them. But eventually, like, the kids, like, they find their way in, and you start kind of sharing that. Like, I have a lot of developer friends who have children, and, like, they've told me very similar stories. Where, like they've gotten to the point where their kids are 7 and they've just kind of given up, you know, as a parent. They let their kids play the games and, like, have fun. And, like, there's a really wonderful kind of, like, sharing there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's captured quite well.
To me, what's so interesting about that is this is pretty soon post 9/11.
I was going to bring that up because...
yeah, that's a good point.
No, this is a whole thing that I want to bring up. This movie is really kind of miraculous in a certain way because it was released post 9/11, but they were literally filming it during 9/11. I read that the scene where Mel Gibson is talking to his wife pinned to the tree, they filmed on September 12th, 2001.
Jesus.
The day, and the cast and crew did a candlelight vigil before they filmed that scene.
Of course.
In contrast to The Master of Disguise, where they were filming the infamous Turtle Club scene on the day of 9/11, and had a moment of silence while Dana Carvey was transferring the turtle costume.
If I remember correctly, that isn't, like, I don't know if that was ever actually, like, verified.
It is.
Very funny.
It's on the Wikipedia page and everything. Like, that is real. But I'm really glad you brought that up because I was going to bring it up myself. Is that while I was watching this movie, that's actually why I looked this up. I was like, man, this movie feels like such a product of post 9/11 America. In the sense that, like, even though it technically came out after 9/11, it's kind of prescient. Like, I think of, like, how when they go into town, like, Joaquin Phoenix goes to the military recruiter and he's, like, asking for brochures and stuff, and, like, there's another, like, one of the town punks or whatever who's messing with their corn, who they think is making the crop circles.
Michael Showalter, I think.
From Wet Hot American Summer. He's in there and, like, he's enlisting, and I was just like, yeah, man, this really feels like post 9/11 when there's this sort of, like, shadowy, like, uncertain, like, insurgent threat, and everybody's feeling unsafe, and that, like, the end of the world could happen at any moment, and so for, like, a sense of control, all of, like, these young men are going to enlist, you know, for, like, that sense of, like, being able to fight against the enemy is sort of like a means to fill that void of not knowing what to do with yourself when you're uncertain and afraid. And it's like that just is in this movie.
Yeah.
But it was written pre 9/11.
Yeah, that's wild.
I know.
Because, like, the importance of television.
Also,
feels,
yes,
like,
the big TV events. Yeah.
9/11, like.
Well, that's because I think that like that War of the Worlds broadcast is so prescient. You know, like. And it sort of tied into that for the same reason.
Now, speaking of a story that is somewhat apocryphal, like that the War of the Worlds broadcast is, like, kind of overblown.
Oh yeah,
it was
for sure.
Like,
it was like one death, I think.
It was. I don't think if that.
Yeah.
And it was really only like a few thousand people who heard the broadcast, because it was on kind of like a secondary like B radio station. And also they were not like trying to make it out to be real. Like they advertised it as like, we're doing a radio play.
Yeah, just some people tuned in later.
Right,
Yeah,
they flipped to the station and heard it doing this kind of like found audio sort of thing, and they just assumed it was real.
But the mythology of it.
Right, exactly. The mythology of like that getting blown up off into proportion of people like jumping out of
in a similar way
windows.
too. I think that like a lot of the theme, and I'm not saying this to disagree with it per se, but just as like more of a small counterpoint to round it really. Like I think the same could be said for either rendition of Invasion of the Body Snatchers or like so many other films.
Well, that was one of M. Night's primary inspirations for this movie. I saw that he had 3 movies that he listed as like his big sort of like touchstones for making this movie. It was specifically the 50s version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and The Birds.
Okay, I can see that.
In fact, it was one of those things where he made the whole cast and crew watch The Birds before production started.
Good.
And, I do think that is one of the kind of cool things about this movie, is that it has sort of this, like, old 50s sci-fi kind of tone to it.
Which is neat.
I think of, like, the opening credits, too. They're kind of like these, like... They remind me of like very much like early 2000s version of like old 50s sci-fi credits.
Yeah, it's their Twilight Zone.
Exactly. Yeah,
which is cool too, because like again, Joaquin Phoenix was in Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Sure,
kind of cute.
Yeah,
like it all kind of comes back around. No, I agree. Like it has that like Hitchcockian feeling to it, and not just in the themes, but also, frankly, too, in the cinematography. Mm-hmm. The way that characters are framed in this old farmhouse. Like, some wonderful shots where characters are framed by, like, the doorway as we're shooting from inside or outside, or through the corn, that do remind me of a lot of, like, Hitchcock. Hitchcock cinematography. And I don't like saying that about a Shyamalan film, but I have to give it. Like it does. It really does. I think I said at the top, but I really did like how this movie looked.
Yeah.
The set is amazing.
I totally see
the lighting is incredible.
The Close Encounters influence too. Like, I hate talking about like blockbuster films as Spielbergian, because I feel like it's a shorthand for a lot of things, but I think in this case it is literally Spielbergian in like the way things are framed. I think Spielberg is like pretty obviously quite a huge influence on M. Night, if you just like in terms of the style of his filmmaking. What I find interesting about the evolution of M. Night's style and cinematography trademarks is like, this movie really focuses on center frame. Yeah. Right? You have a lot of characters looking straight forward. Directly into the camera. Yeah, center frame. Just like Trap. And again. There are elements of that in Trap, but later in his career, he likes putting characters on the very edge of the frame, where they're cut off by part of the frame. You see that in Trap, you see that in Old, you see that in Knock at the Cabin, and I like the juxtaposition, because like we're taking like the extremes of extreme center frame to the extreme edge of the frame. It's interesting how much he's branched out beyond just kind of straight on. I think traditional shots. Say what you will about M. Night, and we've said many things about M. Night. But I do think that he has a pretty strong sense for the cinematic. I think he has a good, strong, defined cinematic language that I really appreciate and respect in his stuff. Just like kind of like a small thing.
that I really love, and like one of the at pretty much the very beginning of the movie when they first discover the crop circles and the corn and all of that stuff, and they're kind of everything is like it all just feels kind of off, right? It's like, oh, all the corn is bent, but it's not. It's bent, but it's not broken.
'Cause I was thinking,
and it's
it
like
too.
it's too perfect to be done by anything but a machine. It would take too long to do by hand. All of this stuff, like the dog is acting weird, like just all of this stuff is like there's this constant sense of wrongness, and in all of that early stuff, this is just like a really, I think a really excellent sound design thing is that there's just like through all of this, there's no music. There's just the ever present but distant sound of crows calling. Mm-hmm. And it just feels so fucking ominous. It's like a fucking like Edgar Allan Poe thing, or you know, like or Hitchcock. The birds.
I mean, obviously he's so quiet at the beginning. Like,
and again, he's so heavily like he's so heavily inspired by the birds in this. But just like that, it's like when the dog like attacks the little when Abigail Breslin and Rory Culkin has to kill it with like the fork and they find it and all of that. It's like it's all just quiet, but there's just crows in the background just cawing.
I want to give a shout out to the cinematographer Tak Fujimoto, who also did the cinematography for Silence of the Lambs.
Boom.
Badlands.
There you go.
Boom. Holy
Death
shit.
Race 2000.
Yo.
And, he did a few others. He did Ferris Bueller. He did The Sixth Sense. He did The Happening.
He's worked with M. Night a lot.
Yeah, he's worked with M. Night quite a bit, but I will say the cinematography is incredible in this movie.
I don't know if I would have put the connection together myself, but now that you say Silence of the Lambs, there is so much visual language that those two movies share. Like, I totally see it. Silence of the Lambs also really loves like a lot of very direct, like straight on direct center frame stuff, characters looking directly into the camera.
And I mean Badlands, like they emphasize the directness of the center frame.
While we're talking about cinematography, I want to talk about I think what's my favorite shot in the film.
Sure.
And that is right after the spooky cornfield sequence where the alien shows a little leg. Mel Gibson runs back into the house and we get this beautiful static shot where the kids are in the living room and Joaquin is in the kitchen at the table. And between the two is the foyer, the entryway. And Mel Gibson enters into the middle of into the mid-ground. The kids are in the background, and Joaquin Phoenix is filling like the foreground in this really beautiful like triangle. And it's a great shot. And we see like every member of the family is composed in that shot. And Joaquin is still like staring forward. He hasn't really seen he has no reason to turn yet. And he turns a little bit later in the scene, but throughout the sequence, like there's really good blocking. Each characters are moving through different like parts of dialogue, and as the scene continues, like people change their staging without the shot having to change. And I love when films do that, where they just hold to the shot and the composition changes, but every time it does, like it's still really like desirable to look at.
Yeah.
Like Joaquin is always in like that lower right third, but as he pivots, like he changes the composition of the shot. And again, without the shot having to move, and it looks really lovely. Like I really like that whole sequence. And it's really hard. Like it's hard enough to block a scene, to have like characters move from different places like over the course of it. But to have a scene well blocked without changing the shot is just really really nice, and it maintains your focus the whole time. There's always something to be looking at. It's quite good.
Yeah, I think a lot of filmmakers have sort of just fallen into the habit of using like a handheld like kinetic camera as just sort of like a lazy shorthand. Like, not to say that handheld camera doesn't have plenty of like very good applications in film, but yeah, I mean it does.
Let's go back to the 40s, man.
Well, I don't even think we have to go back that far, man. Like, you're
70s,
just like
yeah.
you're just the fucking early 2000s, like the 90s, like you're just talking about. It's like blocking, like a well blocked scene is so important.
It's the Bourne movies. They ruined everything.
I think the core of
Goddamn
it is
Bourne
like
films.
the subjectivity of a handheld camera is a shorthand for building atmosphere in
Sure.
the scene. You know,
Time,
like
place.
if you are placed in the scene in terms of the camera, it's so much easier to build atmosphere. Where when you block out a scene and you shoot it where it's not handheld, but it's more kind of considered, I think that's way more impressive.
Yeah, sure. I think
it takes a lot more like effort and also just frankly understanding of like how to compose a scene than a shaky shot. You know?
I hesitate to go too far down that path
I
because
do
I think
too.
because they
Like, there's
both
time and place.
they're both totally valid.
And there
you know
are a
what
lot
I
of
mean?
like shaky cam shots that are super well composed too.
Sure, and I mean
over.
we do still get movie. I mean, shit. Look at a movie like Long Legs,
Or Trap. Fucking Trap is great. Like
yeah,
like I love how
these
that
are
movie's
all
shot.
well blocked in movies and stuff. I'm just getting nostalgic for a bygone era of cinema. I think is what is what's happening to me. Speaking of
Cool
a
that this film took you there though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I was gonna say, like, there is definitely. I was kind of surprised watching it tonight, like how much kind of nostalgia I have for it, considering that I've really only seen it once or twice when I was a teenager. But speaking of a bygone era of cinema, there's a particular scene that I think we should talk about. Is probably the most famous scene of the film. We talked about there earlier, the birthday party alien jump scare. I'm curious how y'all thought that scene, how effective you found that scene now, especially you, Cleveland, having this being the first time you've seen the movie, because
Well, it's the first time I've seen the movie, but that
Not
was
the first-
one
yeah,
scene
sure.
I had seen before.
because that was like, again, it's like the most famous scene of the movie where they're like watching on TV and it's a found footage thing from a birthday party in Brazil. There's a bunch of kids, they're looking out the window and an alien walks past like a doorway. It's like the first time in the movie that we see one of the aliens in full, and it's still blurry and out of focus and it's quick, but it's the first time you see it. And I think that I remember seeing that the first time and it being a really effective jump scare that scared me a lot, and it's still considered today, like, I feel like it's
one of the best jump scares of all time.
yeah, one of the scariest scenes is on like Sight and Sound's list of one of the scariest scenes of all time. And like I so viscerally remember being scared by that scene when I was like 14 years old, and then seeing it now and it feels so, I don't know, unremarkable. I think it's effective in the context of the film, but like and maybe it's just because so many things have aped it since then, or when it came out there wasn't as much of like a found footage kind of language for cinema.
What I think it is it's because it's secondhand through the TV, right? Like having it happen through Joaquin Phoenix watching this TV report. It feels very in the world and atmospheric and real for the world of the movie. However, in an age where like TV is not what it used to be, I think it loses a little bit of its impact.
Yeah, well, I think still, like, in the context of this film, like, I do think it's a very effective scene, again, because, like, you see the way Joaquin reacts to it. Like, we've seen so many scenes prior to this of, you know, the aliens, like, toying with them, running around on the roof or out in the cornfield, you know, all this kind of spooky stuff, and it's like, this is kind of a scene where it's like, holy shit, there it is. That's the thing. And then Joaquin, that realization is like, this is, like, it is aliens. This is legit. Like, this is real. And this is what's been fucking running around in my cornfield and on the roof of my house, and that I've been chasing and stuff like that. It's like it does feel like kind of like in the film like a gut punch, but when I think of it as like in the context of like what I consider to be like the scariest scenes of all time or whatever, it's like it's a blurry CGI alien that walked past a doorway. Like it's like the famous like fake Bigfoot video from like the 60s or whatever, you know? Like it's
Absolutely. I do have an answer.
It's interesting, I think.
So because you're asking like, you know, like this
Yeah, how does it work?
film.
Yeah, how does it work for you?
Well, so when I first saw it, when I first saw just the clip, the sequence itself, I was probably around the same age.
Sure.
And I thought it was silly then. And I think that's largely because I was doing it wrong. I didn't watch it within the context of the film because the whole movie sets up that sequence. So, like, yeah, like, obviously I did it wrong. Like, duh, watching clips is stupid. I was being a stupid 14-year-old. Whatever. Moving on. Seeing it now, I have two thoughts. I think there is the actual, like, sequencing, and then there's the execution. I think the sequencing is fucking genius. I think it's still great. We touched on it, but I think that the fact that we're, like, that Joaquin acts as an avatar for the audience is banging. Yeah. I think that's really clever, and especially for like just your average audience goer, like having someone there like that you're watching the sequence with is great because all of the weight of this has been put onto Joaquin. Like he is involved in this situation as he's watching this bit on the news. It's like again it's he's tuned in for the hurricane. He's waiting to see, and it turns out the hurricane is there to kill you. Like, is the revelation here is that like the hurricane is a fucking actual monster with intent, right? It's a scary thing. It has a face, and Joaquin's reaction to it is so good. It's why like you can only really do it once. They didn't, but it only worked once. It was like the Paranormal Activity audience reaction shots, right?
Oh, sure.
Like in those trailers, because that was effective marketing.
Yeah,
when it came out, right? Same principle. They're effective for the same reason in my mind. Like watching it over Joaquin's shoulder, seeing like they essentially like they treat it like a reverse shot where we're looking over the TV shoulder at Joaquin's reaction to this and then back to the scene. Mm-hmm. Joaquin is talking to the movie the way that a lot of audience members would. Like he's
telling the kids to get out of the way.
Get out of the way.
Vamonos.
Like he's so like he's so invested in the scene, and because he is, and he's a character we care about, we are too. And so like he's a wonderful like mechanism for getting us even more interested in what's happening in the shot. If it was just the broadcast shot, whatever, fine. But because it's also interplayed with Joaquin's reaction like that, genius. And in addition, that's my first part. Is the sequencing is brilliant. The CG has not aged well.
No, it certainly has.
He looks very. I will say them doing it over like a cheap birthday camera makes it work, and found footage.
I think
like it's a good found footage scare too. Like, and it's why found footage is still like relatively effective today because like it's usually on like an older, deteriorating camera or a cheaper camera. So like you can blur, you can hide a lot of those effects.
Lower quality effects. And I think that I think this movie does that successfully about 80% of the time. Maybe a little bit more. I think it does do some really creative things to sort of hide the CG that makes more of it age well than I expected. There are some exceptions.
My favorite shot is
a legitimate hot take here.
Okay.
I think remastering movies to polish up CG that has aged poorly is not terrible. I think if they went back,
you like George Lucas's revisions?
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's pretty case by case, but even still,
it's taking practical to CG and CG that's already aged at this point.
Yeah.
Also, really, frankly, the most egregious thing that Lucas has done is like changed the context of scenes. That's fucking. It's an old thing.
It's this whole
But that's
discussion.
not what we're talking about here. I'm talking about.
I know what you're saying.
like cleaning up the CG and
If they
terrible in
did
Star
like
Wars.
a 4K Blu-ray remaster of Signs, and they went and kind of polished up the CG to make it feel a bit more modernized, I don't think I'd have a problem with that.
You know, I see where you're coming from. To me, I think there's an aspect of it that if you do that, it feels kind of like revisionist history a little bit.
I agree.
Where it's like,
where do you draw the line?
where do you draw the line? And
I mean, the line is with M. Night. You know, I think M. Night has the final say.
sure, okay. I mean,
And you could argue that
I just like Lucas,
is a
yeah.
great counterpoint.
it's his. It's
No,
his
I actually
movie.
don't. Like, I think it's like, as long as
It's like,
the
yeah,
old
he has-
cut still exists,
he is-
who cares, right?
But,
Like, I
but
think,
that's
like,
the thing is like you really can't.
I don't think it's
you
that
really
secret,
can't find the original cuts of those early
I think
Star Wars
that's
trilogy
the problem
anymore.
right? Is that
It's
like
pretty
having an
much
alternate cut is cool. That's how we get like the assembly cut of Alien 3 or whatever else. Like that's that's how you get those things.
an alternate cut is fine. Like they just released. I didn't see the movie, but they're
20 years down, who
they're
cares? Yeah.
releasing a cut of the new Planet of the Apes movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes or whatever, where they're calling it the raw cut, where it's just the footage without the CG. So it's the
Awesome.
actors in their
That
mocap
rules.
and stuff.
Yeah.
I saw a clip.
frankly,
from it,
I'd
it's
probably
like-
want to watch that more
and
than
it's
the
like-
actual movie.
I think having that as like an alternate cut is cool, but I do like there is something that makes me a little nervous about the idea of even with artists doing it to their own work, of taking something that is very much like a product of its time and like cleaning it up to make it more modern. It's like there's definitely several instances of CG in this movie that have not aged well at all, but also
it's
it's
okay.
like it's a movie from 2002.
I'm
here's the thing,
torn
do you want,
because,
like-
I love video game remasters where they bring up resolution to take things to HD,
Yeah.
and like the ultimate version of that to me is where you have a button where you can go between old and new. And
Yeah.
where you can see both things in context.
I think if you're gonna do it, there has to be like you have to make a point to preserve the original as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think if you're gonna do is like an alternate cut on like a 4K Blu-ray or something like that, like that's one thing. But I don't know. I think you always like the original always needs to be available.
Yes, yeah, that. Like you need to. I think it's important for. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Like the film, like preservation is as important as restoration and all the rest. Like it's important for us to have like. these
Also,
old
like, look at the
copies.
fucking AI upscaling of Jaws 3D that they just put
no
out
one
on
wants
that
that.
4K.
Sure, I mean,
It's
there's
like,
a big
oof.
difference
but-
between considered,
Right.
Of course,
And
of course.
your thesis is,
Yeah.
or you're kind of bringing this out as
my
a question
my
of
only
doing it well.
my only point by bringing that up, I know that's not what you're saying, but my point by bringing that up
It is important
is
to be brought up.
it's a slippery slope. There's a fine line there, and I think that's what Cleveland is saying is like, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
like,
So my example, like
when one thing is permissible, where does it stop being permissible?
So I think like all of it again, like as long as you can save an old copy of it, I think for the sake of like exploring art, like make it all permissible. That's fine. And I'm not so like I'm not such a purist. I'm a purist to the point of preservation, right? But there is an opportunity for like a new generation to try something new with the genre, and I think like as soon as you start stifling that, that's kind of weird.
Sure.
So, for instance, and again, I think also like it wouldn't hurt to entrust the original creators with that responsibility, right? So, for instance, like again, Lucas doing like new cuts, or say in this case, say it was Shyamalan. Shyamalan was like, "Hey, I love this old movie that I made, but I'd like to make it. I'd like to touch it up for the next generation.
I like to make the aliens not look like
if
shit.
Shyamalan wants to do that, as much as he's my fucking op or whatever, like, if Shyamalan wants to do that, like, fine, so be it, you know? Again, as long as that old copy exists. Again, that's sort of the same problem. That's why, like, the Lucas thing is important to bring up, right? Like, because, like, in that circumstance, the thing that makes it not okay is it's really hard to find, like, an old copy, you know?
Yeah.
And that's...
They just don't make them anymore.
And that's less cool. But, for instance, for me, you know, again, I had a very weird, eclectic childhood, and, like, one of the first, like, horror movies that I saw and that I watched a lot as a kid was Bela Lugosi's Dracula. And there's a shot in that movie where, like, Renfield is taking the carriage up to the castle, and he looks out the window, and the coach driver is now a bat. And the bat is literally a puppet on a string. Like, it's the standard, like, Halloween one where, like, you bob the string up and down, and the wings move. And it's awesome. And, like, it rules. Imagine, like, replacing that with, like, a good-looking CG bat.
Right.
How stupid
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Right.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
And,
like,
yeah. And that, yeah. Like,
I think
it's
a slippery slope.
I just want to touch on, like, at what point does a work become completely finished? Right? Because, like...
I was an artist, never.
As a work, you know... Does it become done and untouchable once it's released to the first set of eyes?
No. Well, then we would be arguing for, like, the director being able to make other cuts or whatever, or, like...
No, not the first set of eyes, but I mean, I think if we're talking like a movie or something, like when it's in theaters, when it's released,
when it's widely
released. Well, yeah, I mean, you can't say it's finished when the first set of eyes looks at it, because the first set of eyes that looks at it is the editor, and also you do test screenings.
Art is a living thing,
stuff like that.
It's fucking Da Vinci was like touching up the Last Supper throughout his lifetime. He had to repair it.
Well, and that's what I find interesting about, like, this conversation, is because, like, like Da Vinci touching up later in his life, you know, what's the difference between that and M. Night?
But once you put the painting in a museum, then I think it's
a sacred place,
at that point it's like, oh, the painter's not gonna like walk into the museum and be like, oh, I need to fix that. Let me take my painting back.
At the same time, they do. Yeah, they touch,
like, restoration, and, like, is very much a thing. I mean, they did it with the Sistine ceiling.
Okay, but that's other people. That's other people doing it for preservation later.
But also, like Da Vinci did that in his. That's what I was saying with the Last Supper. Like, in his lifetime, he went and, like, touched up the Last Supper.
I mean, preservation for contemporary audiences is just as valid as preservation for, like, a point of time.
Preservation is a different story, I think. Like, if you're not changing the content or whatever of it, but you're just, like, making sure it's not degrading or being lost, like, that's one thing. But I think at a certain point, as an artist, when you put something out there, it stops being solely yours as the artist. At a certain
death of the artist, for sure.
With death of the artist, and I think that once it is out there, and once it no longer belongs to you, and it has been shared with the wider audience or whatever, and it has become theirs, then it's done. For better or worse. A director's cut of a movie coming out later, okay, fine. A different cut, fine. But, like, at a certain point, I think you have to let it go.
CG aging poorly is not that much different than things degrading, right? Like, it's degrading in the eyes of the viewer.
Because but it's also
modern technology can fix the problems of poor, archaic technology of the past. It's a delicate subject.
I think there's a lot of. I don't think there's one answer. I like everything. I think there's a lot of nuance. I think there's a lot of gray. It's like, you could consider bad CG like a degradation or whatever if better CG is available. But again, also, it's an intrinsic part of the experience of that piece of art. When you're seeing that, when you see signs in theaters in 2002 and you have that experience with that CG, it's like going back later and making it good CG is like you are you are fundamentally changing the experience.
Yeah,
it's
but
not
the audience
you're
is
not
changing at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
And
Yes.
that's why it's so nuanced.
Put it in
And
3D.
yeah,
on
it's
the line.
I don't think we're really getting anywhere with this. Like,
Well,
I think
no,
it's-
I think the best way to cap it is like I think even in terms of death of the author, it's very fluid, like and circumstantial. Again, yeah, put on your 3D glasses now can entirely change the experience, with an intent or not. And sometimes the author knows what's best, and sometimes they don't. But sometimes they do. Like sometimes they do know that like
well, yeah, and
what's best.
I think
tricky.
people are always going to be aware of the limitations of the technology they're working with. I think this movie is a great example of that because
That's what's
I
good
think they do a lot to hide what they know is not great looking CG.
Yeah.
And like I think in that like in the final climax or whatever where they're fighting the alien and Joaquin gets to swing away, I like how they hide that a lot. Like I like how they shoot a lot of it in like the reflection of the TV. Like I like that reveal where he's like,
TV
"Oh, okay,
reflection's
the
great.
invasion's over. We survived our dark night of the soul. The aliens are gone, so we can go get the TV out of the closet." Wheels it into the living room, and the reflection, boom, the alien is there, and it's got little Rory, you know. And I like the way that they show so much of that in the reflection of the TV because it's like through a glass darkly, and so it's obscuring, like it's mostly in silhouette. But I do also like that when they do the reverse shot and it's not in the reflection, it's kind of in the corner and it's got the two windows on either side, so it's silhouetted, so they keep it dark.
Well, they do three things. They silhouette it, they shoot it through the window from outside, so it's from a distance, so we don't get close up. And the third is, we get its perspective. We get POV shots
some POV
of the
stuff.
water falling on it.
Yeah, I actually it's kind of goofy, but I do like the POV shot of Joaquin hitting it with the baseball bat and it falls over and then the glass of water falls and spills onto the camera.
It's great.
It wouldn't happen. I did say that poor cameraman.
No, it's fun. That stuff works really well. When you get like the other shot of like it's sort of in the beam of sunlight when the water falls on you, like see its skin burning. That does not.
No,
that does not
no,
look
that's
good.
the worst age stuff.
It does not look good. And it's like,
and it's given so much weight to that, like it's kind of.
It's like when they really show that a lot of that stuff, it does not look good. But again, it's like I feel like they only. Like, we need to see its skin sizzle a little bit when the water falls on it. It's like, I feel like they do their best to not show more than they have to. And that's good horror filmmaking, is like, keep the monster as obscured as possible, Yeah.
I agree. Okay, so it's great, but I'm open to being convinced otherwise. So in respect to every other part of this movie, how the water is set up, how his faith is set up, that Joaquin Phoenix plays baseball, the radio, like all of these things, I like a lot. I think overall the character and the sequencing is all set up really, or the beats, I should say, are set up really nicely in the plot. Is it deep or complex? No, it's beautifully simple. And, like, it's easy to grasp, but not in a way that feels lazy or dumbed down. It feels, like, fairly articulate, elegant, even.
I would agree.
Yeah, like, deceptively simple, which, for Shyamalan, is, for me, rare. Like, I would describe I was called it beach. Old. I would describe old.
Beach old.
Old beach. I would describe old as, like, almost cynically lazy. I have a bone disease. All this stuff, right? Like, it's to me, like, it felt almost cynically lazy. This, it doesn't. It feels elegantly simple. I'll give it that. Except for the water, man. Like, they set it up. I'm not talking. The girl with the glasses is fine. I actually really like the glasses of water. Sorry, like she, like that whole thing. Like it feels again very believable. Like it's just a kid being picky, or maybe she's got a little autism, a little tick or something like that. Like something's going on, or she's just being a kid.
Well, that's
Who knows?
how
Who
her
cares?
brother describes at one point. It's like she's always had a thing about
It's a tick, but not
her
a tick.
drinking water since she was little. Like, it's a tick, but not a tick.
Or
And
it's just a thing that she has.
Well, yeah, but like
Yeah,
a few
that
times
works.
she's like she has like prescient dreams as well. Like when the boy's having like the asthma attack in the basement, she's like, I dreamed this.
I like that too.
It's like,
And
yeah, so she is.
her dreams are always believably weird, right? Like, they're never like so prescient that she feels like little oracle child or anything.
It's what I like
It's
about
well
it is
played.
like they use her specifically. They use her old baby monitor.
I like that too.
Like multiple times, like a walkie-talkie is like they can pick up, like when the aliens are around, they can like pick up their communications or whatever. So they use that as kind of like a canary in the coal mine kind of thing. And I feel like she acts kind of similarly. Like she almost acts as like a kind of like walkie-talkie from
I like that.
God or whatever, the higher power that like, she's the one who's setting up the glasses of water all around the house. Like, she's the one who's having the prophetic dreams, but also, like, it's kind of garbled. Like, the signal's not super clear. Like, they don't quite know what to make of it, So it's like, yeah, there's
divine.
that. Yeah, yeah, she's
a little angel.
yeah, she's a little angel. She's like, there she is, little angel. But yeah, she's the one like
People who haven't seen Long Legs will be so fucking weirded out and confused by that.
she's tapped in. The point is like she's tapped in.
she's locked in.
She's tapped into the voice of God, and
We're also lucky.
yeah.
So, that I like. What I don't like is that it is explicitly said early on with M. Night. I don't like that M. Night's... And maybe it's just because I already knew the twist. I say with quotes. Like, I already... Like, I knew this going in that, the aliens had a water weakness. That could have put a hamper on that.
I think that is part of it because like it does seem like so telegraphed. It's like I even mentioned it earlier. It's like Mel Gibson
the whole speech about,
says
like, we could go to a place with water.
And Mel Gibson says, he's like, that sounds made up. He says that. He's like, that sounds fake.
But I never try it, just to see. Like, it's only by happenstance, because it has
it's
to
like
be part of the faith
everything about these aliens or whatever is so inexplicable. It's like Rory Culkin is trying to tell him stuff that turns out to be true as well, but because it's from the Dr. Bimbu book, it's like
Dr.
it seems like crank shit, right? It's like, why would this make sense? But again, quote unquote, it's the voice of God. It's talking to him, and he's ignoring it because he does not believe anymore. He has lost his faith. He's wasted too much of his time with prayer. Like, the higher power is literally speaking to him directly and saying, they don't like water. Water is the weakness, and he's like, "No, it sounds fake.
He's too
this is
closed
stupid.
out.
It's too. Yeah, it's like no.
everyone else is voting to go.
It's like it wouldn't make any fucking sense. Like that would be too dumb that these aliens would fucking travel across the galaxy in their interstellar spaceships, and their weakness is water, right? Like it's too dumb. But it's like no. Then it's like at the end, it's like oh fuck, it is the water. Like I was too closed minded.
Forgive, I'm a little drunk. Isn't he the one? Is he the one who wanted to go to the lake? When
He's
they're
the
doing
one.
family
Yeah,
vote?
he's the one who wants to leave.
That feels disparate. Yeah, because I agree. Like I like this. I like this idea that like he's blocking it out. He doesn't have the faith in it. Why would he want to go to the lake?
I think
if
it's
he's
more just
also,
because
he thinks it's crank shit. You see,
I think it's more just because he wants to run. I don't think it's because he necessarily believes that the water has anything to do with it, but he wants to run. He feels helpless at home, and also because like the crop circles are literally popping up in their backyard, right? Like literally in their cornfields, and as we see a little bit later. it's like all of the main invasion stuff is happening near the crop circles. That's what the crop circles are. They're sign, like the aliens leaving their signposts for the larger invasion. So it's like, I think he just wants to get out of there. And hear M. Night say, oh yeah, I'm going to the lake. It's like, okay, I'm going to the lake. But that's also the same scene where he's like, the they don't like water thing sounds made up. So it's like, I don't think he really buys that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But then faith is rewarded at the end.
I think it's little spritz is kind of silly.
It's a little poison. The alien's little poison spritz.
Yeah, I think the poison spritz is very silly, and I like the idea, but I don't really like the execution. And where Mel has to like look like almost at the camera and be like, his lungs are closed, so he was fine. Like,
I think he's trying to convince himself there because Rory hasn't woken up yet. He's trying that's sort of him praying, which he hasn't done, right? Like that's him sort of being like, he's like, his lungs were closed. He didn't take in any of the poison. His lungs were closed. His lungs were closed. Like he's trying to convince himself. He's repeating it like a prayer, and then that faith is rewarded when Rory Culkin wakes up, and it's like, yes, that's correct. I do think it's a little weird that, like, it has, just from, like, a design perspective, like, it's got, like, the little stinger that comes out of its wrist, but then it sprays the poison instead of, like, injecting it. Yeah.
Like, these aliens, like, that's the one thing we really haven't talked about is these aliens suck. Man, they're terrible at their jobs.
Yeah,
they're not good.
Pretty bad.
They're pretty lame. They're pretty pathetic for that. Which is okay. Like again, like the film. This isn't like a critique. This movie is just kind of silly.
I mean, that's one of those things that another thing that I always kind of remember thinking about this movie is like one of the kind of
the CinemaSins guy must hate.
They're allergic to water. Also, like. The joke is like they've mastered intergalactic space travel, but they don't know how to get through wooden doors.
Right. Or even again, like, man, again, all it has to do is rain and they're fucked.
Right.
They're utterly fucked.
And you know, I think part of that too is honestly before I even saw this movie, so much of my reference for this movie came from Scary Movie 3. Because this was like one of the main movies that Scary Movie 3 parodied. And I feel like before I even saw this movie, I was just so like inundated with all of the jokes about this movie. Yeah, I think them like not being the aliens not being able to open doors or something was like a joke in that or whatever. So it's like by the time you finally get around to it, it's kind of like, yeah, man, it's like they do have spaceships, but M. Night did lock one in a pantry. it's like, yeah, these aliens aren't really great at what they're doing, right? I like to think that they're
like the really stupid invasion force, and there were smarter aliens.
My head canon that I devised while we were watching this movie, because I was kind of reckoning with that, is that these aliens are like the space age equivalent of like cavemen. That they're like, they've just barely figured out space travel, but they still like are otherwise like quite primitive.
What if it's like they're just
they come to visitors like, I don't know what is this door? What is this?
Well, maybe they're just treating like it's a galactic civilization that's treating like Earth as their Australia, and they're just sending all their dumb prisoners.
Oh yeah, I like that.
You know, like I think that's good. Yeah. That's a fun way to explain it.
Penal colony.
Yeah, and again, like for the real story is the family and everything to do with the faith, and so like that's all fine. So I don't mind that so much. I guess my biggest gripe is he says that M. Night says this to Mel, like the water is their weakness, and drives away, and then Mel goes into the house and he's standing next to a sink when the alien is in the pantry, and like he never just tries it. And I think it does like. Well, at that point, I agree with all the pros, but the one small con there is, to me, like, it does make Mel look kind of stupid.
Okay, but at that, I'll push back there, because at that point, he still doesn't even fully believe that they're aliens. Remember, like, he sees the shadow moving under the door, and he's doing his whole dumb thing, is like, I'm with the police. I'm a police officer.
Which is a good bit.
It's
pretty
like,
funny.
I just took away a bunch of your friends in a paddy wagon. Just tell me why you're doing this hoax or whatever. It's like
him
he's
also
still,
like embarrassing mouthing paddy wagon. Like, what the
yeah, it's
paddy
like,
wagon? What am I
paddy
thinking?
wagon?
That's good.
Like,
That's funny.
Yeah,
man.
it's a
great.
funny. It's
yeah,
a
it's
funny
a good bit of
bit.
dialogue. Like, again, the dialogue is good.
But it's
in
like
this movie.
like him, like he's still, after all of this, he's still unwilling to believe what is actually happening until he sees its little alien claw trying to grab him from under the door, and he chops its fingers off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and that's why when he goes back to the house, he's like, okay, yeah, we do gotta leave. It's like this, the alien thing. It's like they actually are aliens.
And something else too that I really like is that they make it personal. It's the same alien at the very end who's missing those fingers.
Oh, missing the fingers,
and
yeah.
like, because like
It didn't
the
go
news
back with the
broadcast,
rest
the
of the
aliens
inva-
left.
yeah.
Basically what the news, what the broadcast says without saying it is the aliens figured out that this planet is full of a dangerous substance to them, and they all dipped.
Yeah, it's
But-
80% poison.
Yeah, this planet is 80% poison to them, and even in the places where it isn't poison, it rains poison. So, like, they're fucked, they've dipped, we're cool, we're safe, but this one alien has business to
It's
attend
like,
to.
no, this
one alien has to stick around. And I like that. I think it's good.
I do too, yeah.
Like, it makes sense. Yeah, this one alien makes it personal. So that's fun. That's cute. Beyond that, the only thing I really disagree with is just like a personal theological. It's just personal theological. I think that like the lesson it's teaching is inherently flawed. But hey, it's a movie.
I don't think it's trying to teach a lesson. It's trying to tell a story. I don't think it's pushing any kind of like Christian agenda or anything. It's like, yeah, I'm with you. Like, I'm not a religious person. I'm not like, I don't believe in God per se, but like, I don't know. I still think that the story of rediscovering your faith, like, I think it's still like effective and powerful. It's human.
Faith and
you don't
family
have to.
is just as relevant as faith in a higher being. You know?
Yeah, it's like you don't have to. Yeah, I don't think you have to.
No need to hit him with the Bill Maher stare or anything.
I wouldn't imagine doing that. But
Yeah, no club random shit.
thank you.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like again, like yeah, I'm not religious, but I do think there's still power and beauty in
If you're gonna
in
do
the
the
story.
atheism thing, just say Carlin. Don't Bill Maher me. Fuck.
Yeah, but Bill Maher is like the epitome of like an annoying.
Yeah.
True. Oh yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
absolutely.
And that's
Whereas
what I
Carlin
mean
is
here.
fun.
Yeah.
And funny.
Yeah,
but
Carlin
actually
is-
funny.
Carlin is cynical, but also like, I don't know. He's got some sincerity to him. Where like
Yeah, Carlin's great.
Bill Maher is just fuck that dude. Anyway, are y'all-
Fuck Bill Maher.
yeah,
That's
fuck-
the real
fuck
lesson.
Bill
Yeah.
Maher. That is
Fuck Bill Maher.
that is the real lesson.
He sucks.
Are y'all ready to rate this?
Yeah, I absolutely am.
I'll go first, I guess. I was surprised how much I still enjoyed this movie and how well it held up. Like, I think for me, like, this is like top tier Shyamalan. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
it's up there. It's up there with his best. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'd put it above The Sixth Sense, but like, I think for me, I'd put it over Unbreakable. I think I'm gonna give. You know what? Maybe it's just because I'm feeling hot after this viewing, but I'm gonna give Signs a 4 out of 5. I'm doing it
You feeling hot after what?
after reviewing.
Oh, after viewing. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I think this is easily top 5 Shyamalan.
Oh sure. Yeah.
I still think I prefer Trap and Unbreakable and Sixth Sense to it. But I think it's
I think
really
it's fair.
strong, and I think it's held up very well. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, this movie's great. 3.5.
I like how you did say it's great, even at the beginning you said you didn't like it.
I've come around.
You've come around.
I'm still bouncing. I think a 3.5 is fine. You guys talked me into a lot of it. In fairness,
yeah, I think 3.5 is
and
fine.
you know, we took the time to reflect, to recollect, as we do on this podcast, And to discuss those inherent points, I think you guys largely brought me around on any gripes I did have, though by degrees. I think enough to give it another 0.5.
Yeah.
I would probably give it a 2.5 or a 3 before we had our discussion, but I think a 3.5 is reasonable.
Well, that will give Signs an average of 3.7 out of 5. And thank you, Sam, for giving us another chance to talk about Pappy M. Night.
It's a love letter to a lot of other films that I equally love.
Yeah.
And I do have to respect that, I think.
I mean, yeah, I think his list of inspirations for this film is very strong.
Yeah.
Okay, Ben, we have some prediction results from Alien Romulus from 2 weeks ago.
I'm mad curious.
Because we recorded our Cure episode before the Alien Romulus episode, so we're late.
Before you say, what I want to... This doesn't change anything, but my additional prediction for Alien Romulus is that it is going to have and again, I haven't heard the numbers yet, but my bet is Alien Romulus has a pretty good opening weekend, and I think after that it's going to dip pretty strongly.
Fall off.
I think Alien Romulus is going to fall off in the latter half. We'll see. All right, what do you got?
Okay, so for I'll start with collective rating this time because I wrote that down right after the episode. So I predicted 4.1. Cleveview predicted 3.5. TCU predicted 4.5.
I think
and it was 3.3.
Boom.
Yeah,
so Cleve gets
was
that.
pretty close.
I'm surprised. I would say, no, that makes sense. I would have rated it.
Yeah, you were the most cynical about it from the get-go.
Yeah. In terms of box office, I predicted 38 mil. Cleveview predicted 60 mil. TCU predicted 20 mil.
I think Cleveland's right on this one, too.
56.4 mil.
Oh, I'm killing it. Oh, I'm fucking killing it.
Very close, yeah.
All right.
2 in a row. In terms of Rotten Tomatoes, I said 82. Cleveview also said 82.
Oh, shit.
And TCU said 85.
Oh, y'all are right.
It's 80.
Yeah.
Damn.
Barely.
Honestly, I'm kind of surprised it's that high. I feel like I've seen so much hate around that movie that I was expecting it to be lower.
Yeah, it's at a solid 80.
That's kind of surprising.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think after experiencing such a bounty, I'll share that point with you, Ben.
Generous.
Hey.
I know.
Bad week for me.
In terms of comments, I said gore equals good, lore equals meh.
True. Very true.
Spot on.
You were right on the money.
Damn, yeah, honestly.
You were right on the money.
Yeah. Unfortunately correct.
Cleve, you said, I'm going to be the odd one out and resent it.
I resented it, but I was not the odd one out.
Honestly, your rating was not that much different than ours, ultimately.
Because we all I think resented it the same ways and liked it the same ways too.
Yeah.
Though I will say, after sleeping on it and having even more space away from it, I am even more resentful of that movie. I have not come to like it more in memory. But anyway, carry on.
I like elements of it.
I love elements of it.
Me too.
But
and
man,
that makes me resent how much they fucked it up even more. I'm brokenhearted by it. If anything,
it makes me more bitter about those specific things.
And then TC said alien, but nastier and meaner.
Yeah. It was nasty and
There's
mean.
elements that are nasty.
I don't know if it was nastier or meaner, but it's there.
It's a high bar.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
honestly, so far predictions are neck and neck. We are within a point of each other
yet again.
Love that.
Yeah.
But
let's
keep it tight.
We
still got a few
game.
more till the end of the year.
The more we do this podcast, the more we just become one mind in an echo chamber of idiots. It's great.
Well, next week is Cleveland's pick. Cleve, I know you're sort of bouncing between a couple. Have you decided?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna ask you guys. Are you more excited to? No.
Just pick.
I'm picking Naked Lunch. We're doing Naked Lunch.
Fuck.
I'm doing Naked Lunch.
Man, I was so excited by the other one.
Pick it. You can do that.
I'm not gonna pick something I haven't seen.
Why not? I haven't seen Naked Lunch.
Cleveland
picks
only
are
picks
I only
movies
pick
he
movies I
hasn't
haven't
seen.
seen. I want to grow. I want to learn.
My picks are introducing y'all to movies that I like.
Step outside of your fucking boundary. Try something new, like I'm doing right now.
We
We're
all
making lunch.
have different. I feel like we all have different goals when we in how we pick movies, which is what keeps things fresh and interesting. But you're picking another one you haven't seen, another Cronenberg, and I also have not seen Naked Lunch. So
Let's get
this is
naked.
going to be a first time
lunch.
viewing for me as well.
I want to see what the puppetry's about.
I know this one has a lot of cool, weird creature effects, but I don't know much about it otherwise.
Same.
So, looking forward to checking it out. So, tune back in next week for our review of Naked Lunch. Still haven't refilled the sponsor shelf, so we're not going to do sponsors
This
this
episode
week.
is brought to you by water. It's
Yeah,
obvious.
you know
but
what? Yeah,
Water.
it's good.
Drink up.
All right, well, that'll bring us to the end of this week's episode.
Pour it all over yourself. You can do whatever you want. with
Yeah,
water.
dump it. Immerse yourself
Dump
in
it.
it. Dump it. Slop them up.
Slop 'em up.
Slop them up. The sloppy steaks.
At your phonies.
If you like the show and you want to support us, then subscribe, share an episode with a friend, leave us a 5-star rating and a review, all of that good stuff. You know what it is. And, hey, why don't you head over to patreon.com/podpeoplepod and, I don't know, toss us a $5 or something. You
Are you British? Toss us a fiver.
It's $5.
5 pence.
No.
Give us a
quid.
fiver. Oh, look at us. We're British now.
British.
You've never called a $5 bill a $5?
I have.
I was gonna think that's a British thing.
I'm mocking you for fun. Not.
Okay.
There's nothing genuine here.
Well, if you want to mock me
being
for,
you.
if you, dear listener, also want to mock me, then give
pretty
us
For fun or sport.
for fun or sport. Then give us $5 a month, and you can come into the Discord and you can mock me as much as you want.
That's true for the game.
That's not to say
For the
I
love
won't.
of the game.
That's not to say I won't fight back, because I will. But
You can do it.
you can do it. So yeah. Patreon.com/podpeoplepod. And of course, as always, shout out to our honorary pod boys, Sam, Zach, Micah, and Mitchell. Special shout out to Sam this week for curating the episode and for giving us a chance to talk about Signs. It was fun.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah. And of course, last but not least, you can also always follow us at letterboxd.com/podpeoplepod, where you'll find a list of all the films we've talked about on the show with our average ratings and links to those reviews. For my recommendation this week, I'm keeping things on theme. If you like aliens, and you want more alien shit, then listen to Blood Incantation.
fucking true,
Go
man.
listen to Star Spawn, great record, Hidden History of the Human Race. If you want to
Synth
listen
album is
to
really good, too.
Time Wave Zero,
Yeah, Time Wave Zero's good.
the ambient
I love that
record.
one.
Yeah, you can either have nasty death metal or 80s-esque synth wave. They have it all, and it's all Anunnaki
Blood
and alien themed and shit. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
Well, we were talking about the cinematographer for Signs, Tak Fujimoto, and giving him his flowers a bit. I want to highlight 2 movies he also shot that I think are fucking bangers.
Yeah?
Something Wild, directed by Jonathan Demme, who also did Silence of the Lambs. It's a sort of dark comedy where, like, it's like a couple that gets together out of the blue.
Is Ray Liotta in that? Or am I thinking of a different?
Yes, Ray Liotta.
Okay, yeah, I've not seen Something Wild. I've heard it's great,
It's
though.
amazing. It's an incredible movie. Very funny, very strange, very unique. Big recommendation on that. That movie kicks ass. I'll also recommend Death Race 2000.
Hell yeah, that movie
Which
rules.
fucking rules.
Weird fucking movie.
Imagine wacky races as a hard R 70s exploitation movie starring David Carradine and Sylvester Stallone.
I'm going back to surreal recommendations this week. My my recommendation is going to be when you really kind of want to be hedonistic and use 2 Boolean cubes instead of 1, you should just use 1. I made that mistake earlier this week, and I very much so regretted it.
Too much
Like
flavor.
an anti-hedonistic recommendation.
Yeah, no, I'm recommending
Restraint
this week.
Boolean.
My recommendation of the week is restraint in respect to Boolean cubes. You don't. One is fine. It's too salty.
Yeah, 2 Boolean cubes is way too salty.
It's way too much. Don't do it.
It's way too much.
Yeah, it's funny because like 1 Boolean cube, you think like, oh, like maybe it could use a little bit more, but a whole nother Boolean cube is right out. Don't do
Gotta
that.
respect that game.
I tried the game. It's not worth it. 1 Boolean cube is fine.